Different's great, but being different for the sake of being different, I'm not a big fan of, right? If you just want to be different for the sake
technology
of it.
Technology, I would hide behind it.
And you start to hear some of their challenges, and yes.
Because it speaks to the core of who you are and what drives you forward. Because what makes you different is what drives you.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Master Connector Show. I'm your co-host, Rob Genovese, and we're so thankful and happy that you're joining us today as we come at you every Wednesday live, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And look, we hope you can join us every week because we're bringing you amazing, amazing guests. We're talking the cream of the crop. People who have serious accomplishments, way more than mine, are going to come in and they're going to teach you from their experiences, their skill sets, their stories, that are going to help you close the gaps between your knowledge so that you can succeed faster. And look, if you want to, hopefully you can join us every week. But if you can't, listen, go to masterconnector.show. We have the lineup really laid out there. If you see somebody that's coming up, a guest of our program that you need to hear from, you can go through that, masterconnector.show, find out who it is, bookmark your calendar so that you don't miss this. And you want to be on live because when we're going live here, this is the Master Connector Show. When you come on live with our audience, you get to meet each other. You'll get a chance to connect with our guests. You can connect with Steve and I. And that's the idea here. That's why the show was started. It's not about networking. It's about actually connecting. It's about relationships. And it's about building on those relationships so we can all further our opportunities. And as a mentor said years ago, a rising tide raises all ships. So listen, Steve and I, we go back 27 years, two former shy guys, two introverts who overcame shyness, still introverted though. It's an energy thing, but we have overcome it. And here we are. We're hosting a podcast together, this live. This will go out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And so you can listen to this from two guys who really couldn't talk to people. So we're going to give you some hope out there, but let me bring him on. Everybody's a connector here, but he is the master connector. Bring him on, Mr. Steve Spiro. What's up, Steve?
What's up, Rob G? Hey, you know what? It's funny. But in addition to, I'm glad you brought up the Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So in addition, if you get in the comments, you're going to be in infamy. Okay. Your name is going to be mentioned and you're going to be on for infamy. So not just on with us live, but it's been amazing being partnered with you, Rob, and I'm excited for today. So what's going on, everyone? Steve Spiro, the Master Connector, coming at you live and direct. Listen, I am pumped today, and I have a question for you. What does it really mean to lead with confidence? Confident leadership begins with self-awareness and understanding your strengths and weaknesses and your emotional triggers. And Rob mentioned to somebody before, and we had a common mentor, somebody who was incredibly charismatic, a great leader, that he's still my mentor to this day. I was with him last night, going to be with him again tonight as well. And just amazing. And, when I looked at him, I was like, I can't be him. I've said this before, we're always going to be a second class somebody else. We'll be a first class us. Okay. And, in your case, you'll be a first class you. And I had to come to terms with that. I had to understand what my strengths and weaknesses are. And I had to really be okay with who I was and am. And, once I started to feel comfortable, the confidence started coming on. There was so much self-doubt and unbelief and disbelief. And, we talk about, you hear it a lot. It's almost become a cliche, if you will, but that imposter syndrome, right? What? Here's the thing: authenticity, being who you are, and knowing you're okay. We don't edit the Master Connector Show. When it goes up on Spotify, it's raw. It is what it is. So if you hear me stutter or do a blunder, whatever, I've learned to be okay with who I am, and I think even in the intro it talks about that a little bit. So listen, it's just really. To me, confidence is, I'll say it like this, not giving a rip. Now, not giving a rip necessarily, when I'm not talking about giving a rip about people. I've learned to really care about people. People are important. People, to me, are one of the best resources in the world today, in my opinion now, is my relationships, is people in my life. I'm not saying that, but not be giving a rip about what people think about you, because you are who you are. I remember, seeing my mentor, and he'd be happy yesterday as well. I mean, been in a crowd of people, and you could see he's balling up, he's welling up, his eyes are, about to cry, whatever. And he's okay with it because he's confident. He's convicted. He's not insecure or afraid to show his emotion. And for years, as an introvert, as somebody who had been wounded and broken for many years, it was hard for me to show some of that vulnerability. But as I became healed, I learned it's okay, right? And so, as a leader, right? Leaders, we lead from example. We lead by example. And so, we're going to talk about leadership. We're going to tie in confidence and leadership. We have an amazing guest. So if you're ready to have my incredible co-host here, the amazing Rob G, introduce our guest, type in the comments, let's go. And Robbie G, I'll pass it to you. Let's go, sir.
All right, let's go, everybody. Tara LaFon Gooch is a multi-best-selling author, international TEDx and keynote speaker, and the CEO of Best Branding Solutions. She's the creator of the GRASP method: gratitude, responsibility, action, sight, and purpose, helping leaders and professionals show up as their most confident selves. Tara's work has been featured in Forbes, LA Weekly, Fox News, and the CW, and her TEDx talk, Gratitude, the Foundation of Confidence, has inspired audiences worldwide with over 400,000 views. Please welcome to the show, Tara LaFon Gooch. What's up, Tara?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the introduction.
Thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome.
It's so exciting to talk about confidence, because I think we have a big misconception about what confidence is. We
Mhm.
think confidence is arrogance. It's being loud. It's knowing all the answers. But confidence is actually a calm, quiet competence, and it walks into the room before we do. So I am excited to share with your audience today.
Wow. She just put like a bold asterisk exclamation point right here at the beginning of our
Right out of the
conversation.
gate.
Love it. Love it. I just want to, before we get into it, I just want to say, hey, Jody, good to have Jody back on here. New friend, incredible having you on here. And of course, Michael Zajac, great having you on here. And he's been very active with the comments. Appreciate you. And our amazing friend, sponsor of one of our episodes, Russ Hedge, on here with us today. So appreciate that. Keep the comments going. Happy Wednesday, Russ says. It's awesome to have you on here. Make sure if you're watching us, we don't know you're in the comments. We don't know you're watching the show unless you get in the comments. So get in there. So but anyway, let's get into it. All right. So we were talking a little bit about self-awareness, right? And I mentioned, being kind of, very much, self-conscious, if you will. And so let's talk about self-awareness. So here's the question. So community, type in hashtag self-awareness. Here's the question for you, Tara. How does developing self-awareness help leaders lead more authentically and build trust within their teams?
I think it always starts with awareness, right? Any form of success, whatever we're looking for. And if we're looking for success in leadership, we have to understand our state of emotional intelligence in order to properly lead others. And I think in my own leadership journey, working in corporate environments, how many leaders that I had that were lacking self-awareness, and how many that I had that I would say were emotionally self-aware. Vastly more were unself-aware, right? They came with demands. They came with criticism. They came with abruptness and almost felt like bullying. And what my reaction was, what other people's reaction was to them. And what I found is that true confident leaders don't have that approach. They're not looking to take something from someone, including energy. Yeah. They're looking to give. And one of the things that I noticed at the beginning of the show, the trailer, it said, go giver.
Yep.
Leaders, real leaders, are go givers. They are people that are emotionally self-aware. They are givers, and they don't expect to take first. And I think if we come at leadership with this mindset, we will all be better off for it. Not just ourselves, but our teams as well, and our clients. It's a resonating thing that people feel inside our organization and outside our organization.
Tara, I'm glad you led with self-awareness. And I read a ton of books in my day just to overcome the kind of clueless person I was. But I never read a lot about self-awareness as a standalone topic and how to develop it. What I did realize from a marketing standpoint, let's put self-awareness aside from the people that we are, but even from a marketing standpoint, I learned to figure out, how is what I'm saying affecting the other person? Which isn't a criticism of me, but it makes me examine what I say, what I write, what I put out there, and how I'm interacting with somebody. How are they perceiving it? Because how they're perceiving it a lot of times has to do with maybe something that I'm deficient in doing. So I always felt like the burden was on the communicator, not on the person receiving the message more so. Would you agree with that, or am I kind of off base on that?
I love that. And I want to talk a little bit about the science of this, because there is a science to this. And I will start by saying, I think if we did a poll of Earth, most people would say, if you ask them, are you self-aware? They would raise their hands and say yes, right? But the vast majority of people aren't. So I think there's a huge gap. So let's start there. And when we think about the communication aspect of leadership and how important that is, we all have the same physiological brains, right? When a leader, let's say, is starting a conversation with somebody, well, that information goes into the person's ear, goes to the base of their brain, travels through their limbic system, which is the emotional center of their brain, and then eventually goes to their prefrontal cortex, which is the logical processing power of our brains. This means that everything is felt first before it can be perceived logically. So if we understand this as leaders, that it's how we start a conversation with somebody, and having them, us as a leader understand that how we start a conversation is either going to put that person in a state of fight or flight mode and thinking, am I going to lose my job? Am I going to lose my car? Am I going to lose my house? What is everybody going to think? Are they going to fire me? Right? To setting someone at ease immediately before the conversation even starts. Which one do we think is going to have greater increase in success, not only for that other person, but for ourselves? Because one leads to greater outputs, the other one leads to greater scarcity and fear within our organization.
I love that. It's that is golden, man. You were spot on. And there's a couple things that come to mind. Number one, the book Simon Sinek, right, talks about start with why, and he talks about that limbic portion of the brain, and people act through emotion, not through logic, right? And so I love that you're talking about, even that initial conversation and what's going to drive them, because sometimes you're right, you could set a wall up by that initial starting point, and you're talking about, okay, thinking through, okay, if I'm in their shoes, what are they thinking, and being aware of that. And I love that. It's funny. I have a friend of mine. I kind of have a mentoring role with him, and I don't get paid for mentoring. So people have to chase me to mentor me, have me mentor them. But and we were talking about, one of the things I love is the DISC profile. This DISC, and there's a driven personality, inspiring. That's the I, which is the life of the party. The S, kind of the people pleasers, and then C is a cautious. And he's a D. He's got a lot of D. And if the other person, Ds tend to be in that fight mode. They're like always challenging. It's not on purpose, but it's the way they're wired a lot of times. And he's dating a girl that is more on the S side, more of that people pleaser. And he's like, I don't understand. Like she should, no, but you got to look at her side. You got to look at the other side of it and understand how they're wired. And you're right, that requires self-awareness. So just appreciate what you're saying here. Yeah. But anyway, let's keep going here, unless you wanted to comment. But I'm gonna keep the ball rolling. We got a short window of time with you, and we want to maximize whatever we can. So you listen. Ultimately, for me, and I think people on here, yes, they want to connect. Yes, they want to be inspired. But ultimately, yeah, we're on LinkedIn because we want to grow. We want to grow our business. We want to grow professionally, personally, right? So let's talk about growth. All right. Hashtag growth community. Put that in the comments. And by the way, welcome back, Yolanda Chin. We love and appreciate you. She's an amazing community member here and appreciate her big time. So thank you, Yolanda, for being on here with us. All right. Let's talk about growth. What are some daily practices or habits leaders can adopt to continuously cultivate confidence and self-assurance?
I love that. I think one of the best practices anyone can do, regardless of what occupation they are in or industry or stage of life, is a cultivation of daily gratitude practices.
Yep.
Gratitude has such a transformative quality to it. It rewires our brain. And if we can rewire our brain, we can form new beliefs. And I think this is really important because in order for us to grow and learn from each other, we need to be able to be adaptable. And that sometimes requires relearning things, right? Creating new patterns within us. One of the most beautiful things that gratitude does as well, it's a natural antidepressant, right? It's a natural antidepressant. It increases serotonin and oxytocin in our brains, and these lead to better connection with people. So if you're a happy, grateful person, you're going to tend to attract other happy, grateful people. Again, this is really important for leaders. It's important for all of us. It's important on LinkedIn if you're connecting with somebody and building your network. Like energy attracts like energy. So if you want to attract go-givers and grateful people, people of increase, I call it, then you first be a person of increase. And you start these practices yourself and then watch as the people come energetically to you. And this is important in our companies. It's important in our networks. It's important in all aspects of life, really, because we are who we surround ourselves with, but it starts within.
Yeah. I'm glad you just kind of put a period on that right there, Tara, because I was thinking, I sometimes I wish there was video of myself years ago because I was so clueless, and on a really serious growth journey over the years. But when you said, about the growth and about surrounding yourself with people of like energy and likeness, right? I had such a problem with that because I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I stood for. I didn't have opinions. It was so wishy-washy that I surrounded myself with anybody who would tolerate my existence. So that meant, there was a lot of people out there in the world who just, they're people I wouldn't even be in the same room with because, say, they were obnoxious or they just didn't treat people right. But what would you say about, growth in terms of that? Because if I heard you say that so many years ago, I'm like, I don't know what to do.
I love the fact that you're a brand builder, and you'll appreciate this. It starts with understanding your values. I believe that by getting really crystal clear about who we are, our values, what do we believe in, what do we want out of life, putting pen to paper and getting really granular with it. There's a book that I read in 2022, and it really changed my life. And it's called The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. It's an oldie but a goodie, published in 1910. And in it, he says that, whatever you want, to write it as if you're writing a letter to a friend. And he said, you're not going to write a letter to a friend with strings of letters and expect them to piece it together. You're going to write it explicitly what it is, right? And I think when we do that, we get this sense of clarity that helps us, because I do believe that opportunities are coming at us all the time. People, opportunities, connections, success in different forms. And sometimes we have blinders on and we can't see them. It doesn't mean they're not there. We just can't perceive them. And this is why just getting super clear about who we are, what we want out of life, what we value will help us see the opportunities that are already present. And it starts with clarity, and that goes in with mindset. And when we really do this as a daily practice, this is not one and done. When we do this as a daily practice, we start to see that there's so many opportunities that we can't say yes to everything. And that's actually good, because then we're in this state of, we've realized that we don't have to say yes to everything. That's actually not where the power is. And when you are aligned with your values, it makes things really crystal clear of if something is an aligned opportunity for you or not. So it makes saying no really easy.
Yeah. I got a comment. So some people have a tough time saying no. And I've learned some really good things over the years. Rob knows me for many years, and I was the blunt guy. I was like, if I was the guy, I was like, if I disagree with you, I'm like, you're wrong, like, and there's a nice way. I learned it from my mentor in terms, he saw this years ago, of saying no. Say, hey, I would love to. Unfortunately, I have, this commitment. But starting with I love to, that would be great. Just starting with that positive, just so they're not feeling like they're just really just being turned down right away. And or maybe even there's a slight glimmer of hope. Let me see if I could work it out. Probably you can, but at least there's and it just makes people feel better, But change is tough, and there's some people, and maybe you're listening to this, watching this, and you're saying, man, this is tough. This is not me. And I want you to know you can change. It's going to take some courage. It's going to take stepping out of your comfort zone, and nothing good happens. I like to say it all the time. There's danger in the comfort zone. I've learned that's my motto now. So I want to talk a little bit about courage, Tara. So community, type in #courage. So what role does taking risks and embracing challenges play in building a confident leadership mindset?
Well, change is inevitable. Growth is optional, right? So the weather's going to change. Our tastes change. Our relationships change. Our jobs change. Things change. And it's one of those things in life that a lot of people don't like it. There's uncertainty on the other side of change, but there's uncertainty anyway, because life is not 100% guaranteed, right? So change is one of those things that I've actually learned to embrace. And while it wasn't always easy, what I realized is when I started embracing it and stopped being afraid of it,
Mm-hmm.
that's when I became more confident. And really, this happened especially when I became a full-time entrepreneur in 2022. I love to tell people this backstory because, honestly, if you have one more thing than I had at this time, you're 10 paces ahead, right? So I left my corporate job as a sales director in 2022. I had a company car, so I lost my car. I lost my computer. I lost my laptop. I lost my salary, my benefits, my health insurance. 100% change when I left that position. Some part of me knew that it was the right decision, even though on the surface, logically, it looked like a terrible decision. And I had people in my life who love me, like my mom, who said, "Are you sure you're making the right decision? Because you don't know what's on the other side of change." But I just knew, right? And every time I took a risk, every time I believed in myself, my confidence grew. And when my confidence grew, I realized that it's actually this foundation of all success in life. When you have confidence, what are you able to do? You're able to pick up the phone and talk to somebody that otherwise you might be afraid of. You're able to pitch your offer better. You're able to stand up for yourself. You're able to say no to the wrong things and yes to the right. So every time I did this and embraced change and took risks, my confidence was growing. And at the same time, my success was also growing with it. So I realized that we're sometimes chasing the wrong things. We're chasing comfort when we should be chasing change for the better and watching what happens on the other side of it.
Hearing you speak, Tara, you and I have some parallels there. And I spent 25 years in corporate. And in 2019, my third layoff and my last one was it. And after the second layoff in 2015, I started building a company because I just get tired of not having a sense of control. And when I left corporate, and I told my parents, I said, I'm not going to get another job. Keep in mind, I was in my 40s. Like, I'm telling my mom, like, don't worry, mommy, I'll be okay. Like,
Yeah.
she said the same thing. She goes, are you sure? And even 6 months after that, my brother-in-law was sending me want ads, jobs. I'm like, so, people have this sense of they're scared for you. I wasn't scared because I have an amazing wife who supports me 100%. And I, by then, like you said, these little things that you do that build the confidence, it's the thing that allows you to take that next step. To Steve's point, comfort zone is the danger zone. Well, we were taught, I was constantly stepping outside it, and it scared the crap out of me every single time because I was very fearful. But that courage increased and increased and increased. And I was just having a talk with a great guy, just another brand guy. And we were talking about how the courage to just step out eliminates fear after fear after fear. Because after a while, you're like, that was it. That's what I was afraid of. Right. So love your story. Parallels mine so much. So yeah, way to go on the courage front. And by the way, 2022, I got booted out in 2019. She's kicking my butt in business. Look at all she's done. She's got 3 years on me. Got 3 years on her.
The power of confidence.
Yeah, no doubt. That's great. Yeah, listen, what I need to say is, and you guys have said so much great stuff, Tara. This is amazing. You got to understand, when you look back in your life, you'll see, wow, that just seemed to work its way out. In every adversity lies a seed of equal or greater benefit. That's what I've learned. Think and Grow Rich, Master Key to Riches, it's all in there. Napoleon Hill, classic, but it's true. And it really always works out. It really does. So fear the fear and do it anyway, right? But I want to find, and we're getting really the bottom of the hour here. I just want to talk about impact, because to me, the world, why am I on this world? To make impact on people. So community impact. Let's type in hashtag impact. And here's the last question as we wind it down, and maybe keep it on the less than 1 minute side if you possibly can. But how does confident leadership influence team morale, productivity, and overall organizational success?
Okay, so under a minute. A confident leader is a jar that's full. When you shake it, it's not loud. It's full. An arrogant leader is an empty jar. When you shake it and it has just a few coins in it, it's loud. Everyone sees it. Everyone knows it. Everyone feels uncomfortable. A leader who is confident influences their organization by increasing employee retention, by increasing employee happiness at work, productivity, and it's a resonating power and impact that not just, helps with their organization directly, but customers can feel it. It's something that people gravitate towards because they want to be with an authentically confident leader. Authenticity is the opposite of arrogance. So if you're an authentically confident leader, people are drawn to you, and it's magnetism. It really is. So I would say it impacts every aspect of your life and business and family. Everything is impacted by your confidence.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of confidence impact, I know you have something you want to impact our community. Would you just share what you'd like to offer them, please? And as we wind it down.
Absolutely. I have a couple of books if anybody would like. I have a few books. My first book, How to Grasp Confidence and Own Your Power. That's a great one that came out in 2022. And the second book I have is Talk Your Way to the Top. So that is about how to become a global TEDx speaker and influencer. If anyone's interested in either of those, I would love for you to DM me with your on LinkedIn with your address so that I can send you a copy, and let me know which one you want.
And mention the Master Connector Show, right?
Mention the Master Connector Show. Yes.
Absolutely. Very cool. And what's the best way for them to reach you, for our community to get in contact with you? Community, you need to reach out to Tara for sure.
The best way is on LinkedIn. I'm on here way too much, as I'm sure you are, Steve, right? We're both guilty.
Yeah.
But yes, reach out to me on LinkedIn. That'd be wonderful.
That'd be great. Awesome. Well, we really appreciate you. Totally blessed our community. And Michael says, thank you. Great show. You were amazing. You brought it, and we appreciate you big time. We'll see you in the green room in a minute. All right. Thank you again. All right. Awesome stuff. Wow. All right. Well, listen, community, I don't know. It's going to be easy I don't think we can even top that, but next week, episode 223, how to have a warm heart life with Brandon Godoris. He's a friend, lives in Stanford here, incredible TEDx organizer. You're not going to want to mix next week. It's going to be great. And if you want to learn more about some of the up and coming episodes, besides that, go to masterconnector.show. If you'd like to be a sponsor of the Master Connector, one of the episodes, go to masterconnector.show as well. Learn about that as well as being a guest on our show. If you want to be a guest, it's pretty high standards, but as you can see, we love to talk with you about that. And again, thank you everyone, Jody and Yolanda and Michael and everyone else who was on with us here. We just appreciate you big time. So anyway, I'm going to close up with a quick story. Indra Nooyi, I think I'm butchering it, but Nooyi, former CEO of PepsiCo, took bold steps to redefine the company strategy by focusing on performance with purpose, prioritizing health-conscious products and sustainability long before it became an industry standard. Despite skepticism from peers and pressure from shareholders, Nooyi's calm conviction and self-awareness as a leader transformed PepsiCo into a forward-thinking global brand, proving that confident leadership rooted in authenticity, like Tara was saying, and vision can reshape industries and inspire generations to lead with purpose. Folks, let's lead confidently so we can inspire others and ultimately be that light. God bless. We'll see you next week.
And you start to hear some of their challenges, and yes,
because it speaks to the core of who you are and what drives you forward. Because what makes you different is what drives you.